I call to order the Perry Township Board of Trustees pre-organizational meeting for December 29th, 2022 at 1:39 p.m. Please call the roll.
Trustee Hartshorn,
Yes.
trustee Mears,
Yes.
trustee Music.
Yes.
Okay. So Fiscal Officer Grill, would you like to lead us through the structure for the organizational meeting that'll happen after the first of the year?
Okay, so basically what we do is right now we're looking at the outline of how that reorganization is going to look for 2023. Of course, the first thing that's going to happen is the election of the president for 2023. Since we are not getting any new trustees being seated as of January 1, you guys have the opportunity right now to discuss who might fill that role. Nothing will be voted on until we actually get to the organizational meeting. So this is basically just lining everything up to streamline the actual organizational meeting and gives opportunity for discussion of any of the matters.
I don't see any reason not to leave it. It is. You guys don't want it.
Unfortunately, I cannot. I have some other priorities that require more of my time. So I would not want to be the president for 2023. So I was going to nominate trustee Mears to be president for 2023. And that's where my thinking was. So whether or not she would accept at that time, we'll have to wait till the reorg meeting to see that. Okay.
What if none of us accept it?
I get to pick.
The catch of it is that someone has to make a motion, someone has to second it.
Yeah.
If someone makes a motion and they don't second it, then the motion dies. And obviously, if there needs to be discussion, there would be discussion before that, just to kind of line up who has an interest, who can do it, whatnot. I just wanted to let everybody know beforehand that I've had my priorities shifting over the last year. And while I've been able to manage that, I would appreciate not having to manage that moving forward in 2023. So
I know that other townships, when they do this, they basically kind of make up who's going to be it, but they don't actually vote on it.
I was going to say, do you want us to?
So like if trustee Hartshorn wanted to make a motion for trustee Mears and somebody wanted a second, that's basically where it stops at. It basically then gets tabled and then would be actually voted
table the
on
roll.
at the organizational meeting.
And I don't have an issue with that, if that's okay with the other two trustees.
And I second it. That was Jason's motion.
Well, it wasn't a motion. I was talking in
Not a
the
motion. Okay.
I was talking in the abstract because I wasn't sure if I was making a motion in this meeting. So I guess at this time, I would make a motion for the president trustee for 2023 to be trustee Mears.
I second that motion.
Okay.
Then we'll-
And then it
Yes, table that rule
Yeah, we'll table the roll.
next meeting, stated meeting. Is that right? We're going to do this at the stated meeting.
At the end of this, we will decide at what point we'll schedule the meeting.
Okay.
Complete this. A lot of other townships, what they do is they'll have like a half-hour meeting before their first regularly scheduled meeting. And at that point, that's when they do the organization. They basically read through, they complete the voting,
Yeah.
and then they move on.
So I'm sorry, you're supposed to do this.
Look at her.
You're fine. This is where you guys are allowed to discuss.
No, I'm on to the next one.
Okay, so then the next one would be the election of the vice president trustee.
So Jason, would you want to do that, or do you feel that Mr. Music, because you're have too much on your plate,
I'd really,
don't want to do it?
I don't want to do a disservice to the township.
Okay.
So I think I would be best not in that position.
So at this time, I make a motion that Mr. Music is elected vice president for the trustee of 2023.
Seconded.
And then tabled.
Tabled.
Okay, and then of course, the next part of it there, like I said, this is just the outline for the organizational meeting. So then at this point, after all of that's completed, I would actually go through and finish the voting for that at the organizational meeting. And then it would be turned over to the new president trustee at that time. You'll also see that I haven't filled in the resolution numbers yet, because I know there's going to be some things that you guys may decide to hold off on finalizing until later. So then all the resolutions will be included at that point in time, the resolution numbers.
Right. Does anyone have a problem with second Tuesday?
No, is there any way we can make it earlier or are you comfortable with, is it too much for you to get? here
No,
at
I can
six?
make it earlier.
Is that okay with you?
At 6:30 instead of 7?
6 or 6:30?
6, because
It's at 7 now, right?
Right, it's at 7 now, but I think I've had a lot of people have also said that it tends to run a lot later when it ends up being a bigger meeting.
Yeah.
6 then is that,
So second Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Do we have any holidays that are listed
Okay,
happening on a Tuesday?
so in your packet,
I saw that, which is what made me think of it.
On a Tuesday?
I do not see any Tuesdays in the listing.
Okay.
The only thing that could be is I don't know what day does election day fall on for next year.
That's the first Tuesday, right?
Yep.
The first,
The first Tuesday after a full week, or is it?
no, it's the first Tuesday of November.
So that would be
well, sometimes it changes because this year it was the second Tuesday. That's why we had to move the meeting.
yeah.
You're right, it was.
So that could be the only
We'll
potential.
have to look into that one.
Okay.
See if there's anything. We can check with the Board of Elections and see what's slated for 2023.
Yeah,
Because they'll have it.
we changed that before, like we did the last.
Yeah, we can do it. Yeah, but for the majority of
Yes.
the meetings, it would be
Okay.
at that time.
Wait a minute. Did we just change the meeting from 7 to 6?
6 o'clock,
Yes,
second Tuesdays of the month.
Not for this meeting or all of the meetings?
for all.
For the
All
Board of
meetings
Trustees.
next year.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
At 6, okay.
So I make a motion to have, is it a motion?
Be a resolution.
It becomes a
It
resolution.
could be a resolution, but you still have to make a
Right.
motion to accept the
Make
resolution.
a motion to have the trustee meetings for 2023 on the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m.
I second.
And then we will table.
Table the roll.
The next one is the discussion of how we're going to publicize the meetings.
Right. And this is the same wording as last year.
It's the same wording. And actually what I have found, and I'll forward it to you guys as well. The way that we are providing our notices, we actually do not have to post an agenda.
Right.
All we have to post is the notice. And it's just the bullet points.
So the special meetings, the
And-
topics don't need to be listed?
I mean, it just,
Just
what you're going to discuss, but you don't have to break it into great detail.
Okay.
I've got some other ones I'll forward in another township that I had been advised by the OTA to work with. They actually don't even really, like, if somebody calls and wants to know what their town trustee meeting is going to look like that week, they follow the same guidelines, so they don't even publish that. It's just the trustees meeting.
Right.
So as far as there's no agendas or anything like that have to be submitted.
Well, and I had thought that basically after the reorg meeting, we could post all of the Board of Trustees meetings at once on social media and the website and be done with it. That eliminates
Right.
where's the notice, whatnot. We can just do blanket notices and get all that out there. So we can work with Oasis on that. And plus that'll streamline it so that it's less dependent on me reaching out.
Right.
Because you've always got it, but I worry when we get within 3 days, I'm like, are we gonna send the notice out? So, okay. So I'll make a motion in accordance with Ohio Revised Code section 121.22, adopting the notice of special meetings, schedule of public meetings, rules for notification of meetings to the public and news media and open meetings sunshine law.
Second.
Okay, and table.
Well, you have to take roll. Oh, no, you're right, table.
Nope, table.
I got the process wrong there.
Yep.
So that's, yep, tabled. So for the areas of responsibility,
Most of it's the same as what we've had, except we really need to have a trustee that's responsible for like the main contact with zoning issues,
right,
as well as for the administrative building itself. If there becomes an issue, who specifically needs to be contacted? I mean, I know like in previous, over the last year, Jason, when we've had issues, they've reached out to you.
right,
So it's basically just stating this is
I-
who, and then we need a backup to that person in the event that something happens, that they become incapacitated.
right,
Who then do they go to?
right,
I'm cemetery. I'm roads and cemetery.
right.
Good with the zoning and administrative building.
Okay, and then I'll retain the police.
Good.
So I'll make a motion, setting the areas of responsibility and backups for the trustees. Wait a minute.
Who's gonna be?
Hold on. Let me remove that motion. Backups for these, we've,
Oh,
I can back up roads and cemetery.
I'll do police and administration.
I'm sorry, Missy. You've got police administration?
Yeah, is that okay?
That's fine.
Who's gonna be the primary on administration?
Me?
Zach,
Okay. And you said zoning for you too, Zach?
Yes.
I'll take the backup for zoning.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think that evens everything back out.
Zach, you're doing roads and cemetery?
I'll be the backup.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
I just figured I would take yours. Be backup.
Right, I'll make a motion saying the areas of responsibility and backups for the trustees in 2023. Trustee Hartthorn will be the police primary point of contact. Trustee Mears will be the secondary. For roads, trustee Mears will be primary and trustee Music will be secondary. For cemetery, trustee Mears will be primary. Trustee Music will be secondary, and for zoning, trustee Music will be primary, trustee Hartshorn will be secondary. And for the administration building, trustee Music will be primary and trustee Mears will be secondary.
I second that.
All right, and we'll table the roll.
Okay, the next portion of it, I'm actually gonna turn over to trustee Music, because he's been doing some research and stuff as far as that. Each one of the trustees were provided a copy of what he's worked on.
Find it.
Okay.
I've got mine here. Two copies. There it is. So obviously it's the current fees, what we are currently at. And then the proposed changes, I went through kind of all of our neighboring jurisdictions. And tried to bring some of them up to pretty much equal to what they're at. There was a few, we have a videotape request. I don't believe we probably give out videotapes anymore, so I just updated that to or thumb drive. I increased the cost from, like, for example, 5 to 20. I don't believe $5 would cover the cost of that, or the work there.
Right.
Could we just make it electronic media?
Electronic media.
That could be then a thumb drive or a CD, DVD.
Electronic. Okay, and then the other thing that was brought to my attention, and it's more on variances or administrative appeals. Like variances is the same thing.
Mhm.
So something that this board, I think, needs to look at and discuss is if a resident brings an appeal or I just said it, a variance request to the BZA board. They should have, but prior to that meeting, been given all of the information or requests that the BZA board would need for that meeting. I'm right on that, correct? Like that is the process we have currently. If for whatever reason they've missed a piece, we as a board, I think, need to say, you've got one more chance. If after that second meeting, you don't fulfill all the requirements requested of you, that motion for that variance or appeal is denied automatically. And if you'd like to reassess that appeal or bring it back, you're going to have to pay an additional fee of the $475 to have the board hear it again, now that you've done all your homework. Something stretching on over and over, the BZA board giving, tabling something over and over to the point that now it's become unenforceable, is something that we need to, I think, address. Did I make that, is that clear enough?
Yes.
Yeah, our process doesn't take into consideration people who want to intentionally drag out the process
Right.
and put an undue burden of both cost, time, and effort on the township. And we've proven that every time that we have a meeting, the cost for sending out the certified letters for the required radius is high. And it doesn't necessarily get covered by the current cost
No.
for the variance. And additional meetings don't have any inherent cost. So I would be in favor of having a fee for the initial and then a fee for,
Basically, a lot of townships, what they do is they get the fee, get you 2 appearances.
Right.
Your initial appearance and gives you an opportunity, if you're missing something, to get 1 more. After that, you're paying the fee again.
I wouldn't want to charge for the second meeting because then you can, and it's.
well, no, as long as it's taken into consideration the initial cost.
Yeah,
Right,
If,
yes.
if that covers the first 2, then most variances are worked out between the first 2 meetings.
Yep.
But it's the outliers that run 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
That we're going underwater with actually trying to service those
we can't do that.
and putting the township well into risk. It's not possible, it's existing. So what was the current cost?
Current cost is $475.
75?
If you look at, that's at the top of every place around us.
It is.
One is more than that.
Okay.
And I didn't feel that we should go up for any reason. I just want to put limits on how long we stretch something out
Okay.
so that it doesn't go 3, 4, 5, 2 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I need to make a motion. Should I make a motion to? I'll entertain a motion that we limit our meetings. Our BZA board has to make a decision within the 2 meetings, preferably 1. And if, because I believe that the burden there should be on the person with the appeal, that they have not fulfilled their request because our BZA board has made all of the recommendations
That they need.
to them to make a decision. And if they can't,
And that's always
what are the
something
extenuating
that,
circumstances to
thank you.
why they can't make a decision in the second?
Exactly. Thank you. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
And so what do we do to stop that?
right,
And I think
Well-
that's a conversation that I want to have with our BZA board.
right.
And I think that's where that part of it will come in at.
Right.
Putting the limitations. This one here, as far as for the pre-organization, is just establishing the fee schedules.
Okay. So I'm gonna have that. Meeting. I think Mike Brown's still the head.
Yeah.
At least until this year. I don't know if they.
Yeah, I don't know where they're at with their, I think they'll do theirs in January as well, as far as if there's going to be a change and.
So I'll reach out to him.
So the wording I would change on this is that initial variance, make it initial variance is whatever the cost is gonna be. But additional required variance discussions or meetings have a set cost for those. Because just the notifications that go out, I don't recall offhand what Karen said that the cost was, but it's substantial. Because everything has to go out certified. And it does take a lot of time to type up the letters, get them all marked, get them ready to be sent certified.
I don't want to put our BZA board in a position where it's, oh, you know what, we should have asked for that first.
Right.
And sorry, Mr. Resident, but if you come back to that, you're gonna have to pay us again.
Right now,
It seems like we're almost price gouging them. I don't want it to ever be said that we're doing that,
no.
but I want to at least limit it.
And when Karen does the mailing, it's just not to the resident, it's
Anybody, if
everybody in the square. So, and you're talking $7, $8, $9 for a certified letter every time that we mail them, and it could be 20 people. I mean, it's killing us on postage.
I'll meet with Mr. Brown
Okay,
and try to get some of that nailed
Nailed
down.
down. Yeah.
on what their concerns would be on that. Obviously,
Is Mr. London no longer the chair?
don't believe you.
Did he step down? Okay. All right, we just need a way to deal with that because we've had a number of those that have happened over the last couple of years
Yes.
where it's stretched out to 3, 4, 5, 6 meetings and the township is negative. It shouldn't be a profit making endeavor, but it also shouldn't put us in the red. It should be as even as it can be. And even if that is defined as based on the associated costs of holding the meeting, which would be the notifications, and it doesn't take into consideration the board because they're paid a flat rate for the year.
Right.
So,
Well, not a flat rate for the year. It's a flat rate
For me.
per meeting.
right,
So that's where we run into issues is if they have 6 meetings for the same,
yes.
But they
Thing.
always have to budget. They're gonna have 2 per meeting. If they have 1 a month, they're gonna have 24 meetings a year. We got a budget for them to have
right?
24 meetings. And when they don't have to, great. But
So I would get with Ms. Kaler and figure out how what the cost is for a meeting outside of the first 2, just if it requires additional meetings, what is the cost per meeting based on, and we're not gonna nail it down. So based on, if there's 20 residents
Right,
that would have to be notified,
exactly.
what would be the cost of that meeting? And that cost should be paid by the resident.
Well, and that's what we could do is we could actually put on here that they get, the first cost gets them 2 appearances.
Yeah.
Any additional ones are going to be cost basis
Yeah.
on the actual case,
Right,
case by case determination.
right.
And that's how we could put it in the fee schedule.
Or you could even, I don't know if you could,
Oh, so it does say variance additional, same case, $50.
right.
I just want to make sure that number is,
could you put that's the fee to do that and then put plus mailing or all correspondence?
At where it says variance additional, same case each plus 50, plus mailing. So, because I mean, obviously, we're covering a second meeting at $50 doesn't cover the cost of each zoning member or Ms. Kaler's time
No,
procuring all of it.
right,
And I think that's why a lot of townships have gone to that.
Plus 1.
The fee is 2 appearances. Then after that, you pay the other fee, 2 more appearances.
right. Okay. So we just have to figure out what an appearance is.
Correct.
Okay, and we can get that done by the next,
Yes,
by the organizational meeting.
yes.
So there's no need to make a motion on that one.
no.
Same thing with the compensation for the members and alternates for the zoning.
Currently, we are set at $20 per meeting per member.
And only 1 takes it anyway, but we can't.
We have to stop the budget.
Just have to budget for it, yeah.
And the majority of those donate that money back.
Well, they waive their payment, but we still have to budget.
No, yes, I know. I just wanted to make that,
We're still working on members of zoning commission. I think I've got 2 applications for that
Yeah,
right now.
So do we want to leave it at the $20 per meeting? I mean, nobody's really guffed about
Yeah.
that.
I think that's fine.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
If anyone is listening and you have interest in being on the zoning commission, reach out to me. We can get you an application.
we have an application for that?
We do.
Yes.
Need to get a copy of that to Patrick.
Okay.
Put that out there. And we can always pull it back or hide it when we're not using it, but making it available out there would be.
Yeah, I'll get that out.
So do we want to do a motion on that one then
yes,
at
please.
this time?
Yes.
Yeah, I make a motion setting the compensation for members and alternates of Perry Township Board of Appeals and zoning commissions at $20 per meeting per board member.
I'll second that.
And that's tabled.
Okay, the next one is the authorizing of the administrator and the 2 trustees, which we've already identified.
Right.
So is there any issues with that wording?
Nope.
Any of the trustees?
Nope.
All right, at this time, make a motion authorizing the zoning administrator and trustee Music and trustee Hartshorn to sign all zoning documentation. And we'll table that as well. Any need to address the current refuge cost?
Nope, I think
I
that's
just keep maintaining it the same.
because we upped it to cover us.
All right, and
Okay, so,
got a large number of people that aren't paying,
Yes, I know.
so that's,
so I have some additional information pertaining to that, and I think you guys have copies of it there as well. So our current contract actually expires at the end of September of this year. Basically, what we are looking at right now is with what the per quarter charges.
Mhm.
The township is only retaining $1.96 to cover the processing of the payments and the mailing of the payments.
Say that again.
The township is only retaining $1.96 of the trash payments to cover postage to mail out the quarterly billings and Miss Kaler's time in processing the payments, as well as my time of doing the deposits and paying Rumpke quarterly for our services.
and the plan was, when we increased it to $55 a quarter, was to have at least, what was it? It was like $4,
Mhm.
around $4 rollover per payment if and when all residents pay. We have a large percentage of residents that aren't paying for their trash.
Yep.
And that has been escalated to the county for
Taxes.
tax liens
Mhm.
against properties, but that also doesn't guarantee us that people are paying. And this was,
And you'll see for the payments, what Rumpke is charging us per household is 5304 per quarter.
yes. Oh, it was 5304. So it, did that go? We knew it was gonna go up.
Right, this shows you where the pricing, they've actually been charging us the 5304
Right.
since October 1.
They go by fiscal year instead of calendar year.
Yes.
Okay. So they went up. And we knew that the price was gonna go up every year. What is it? Was it based on 3% per year?
Yeah, it's something like that. It's like from 21 to 22, it went up 50 cents. Yeah, so looks like about 50 cents.
Our goal was to have $55 so we wouldn't have to change it every year. That would actually cover us. It should have covered us for the first 3 to 4 years
Yes.
of the contract. But because people aren't paying it, we're just staying over the red. Not by a comfortable margin, but that right now at 53 something, that's less than that's 50% less than what we were planning to have roll over for this year on those prices. So
Well, and to kind of make it, give it a little bit more clarity. The pricing right now to mail out each one of the billings
Yeah.
is 40 cents a piece.
Yeah.
So you take that from the $1.96 and we're now down to $1.56 per trash bill.
And we're sending them bulk mailing.
And that's being sent in bulk mailing is, plus, on top of that, we have to also keep our permit,
Yes.
which is an annual cost with the post office to be able to do the bulk mailing. And I'm wanting to think that's like $155 a year.
if we could allow residents, if we could come up with a process, working with Oasis, to come up with a process that would allow for them to do paperless billing. It would have an initial cost to set it up, but then it would be a transparent. We would actually be gaining back that money per notification that has to go out.
As long as they opt into electronic notification.
Right, so we'd have to set it up so that it's an annual opt-in. And that they get a notification
They basically would have to renew it.
30 days before, and then, so that would have to be part of the process. The process we worked out with Oasis to make sure that that was actually working
Right.
that way. So,
And then you have to stop, think about the older generation.
well, that's what I'm saying. It's an opt-out. It doesn't
Oh,
affect everybody else, but if people would rather get an email notification on it
Or maybe.
then each
Yeah.
one of those saves us at least 40 cents
Exactly.
per, and understand that next year it's gonna go up probably another 50 cents and our
Yes.
margin is gonna get even tighter where it's going to be,
I honestly believe that it's gonna go up more than.
well,
50
and
cents.
Yeah.
yes.
I know talking to Brookville about their paperless billing, they had a 25% enrollment rate, and that was 8 months ago, I think I talked to them. But they said it does go up every single month, that more people opt in every month.
Okay. I would like to know how much other
That,
communities are paying for their trash, because what I've heard is that $55 is pretty cheap. I've heard some people are paying 68, 70,
Yeah.
$75. And that's just for trash. That's not trash.
and we're in a
Yes,
cooperative,
for what? For
yeah,
what?
with other
Yeah.
municipalities for that
Yes.
trash.
Yep.
Can
we just table this till
I would, but there's one last thing I wanted
Okay.
to say, is that we've had a problem with the current solution that we use for trash billing, that it doesn't do nearly enough of what we need it to do. And being able to actually have an integrated billing solution is one of the core requirements that I had initially came up with, I think about a year and a half ago, when we were trying to figure out where we could go, what we should do. Because for the amount, there's a lot of manual intervention required for the trash billing and trash billing payments. We don't do online transactions. We don't do e-billing, which has inherent cost to execute and cost to manage. I would just plant a seed with the trustees and the fiscal officer that we're likely at a point where we have to cast a little bit wider net and
Yeah.
find a solution that fits what the township's needs are now
Right.
and moving forward. Because right now, I don't think the solution that we have is gonna get us there. I've had a number of conversations with them. I'm sure you have as well. And I know Mears has as well.
Yeah.
They're kind of fixed in what they offer and how they offer it, and it's not,
Substantial cost.
it is,
Yes.
it's a very substantial cost.
If you factor that cost in just for the trash side of it, we are actually operating in the red on the trash.
So with,
I think I figured it up at, I think it was $12,000 a year it costs us to process trash. And that was with mailing every quarter, per time and process.
And the software.
And the software, I think it was roughly $12,000 is what.
the only thing that doesn't take into consideration is how much money we're losing because residents don't pay.
Correct.
Exactly.
Which is the open part of the equation, because if everybody's paying, then things tend to work out a lot
We-
cleaner, but without that, and we have no idea, quarter to quarter, year to year, with any reliability, how many residents will pay their trash bill and how many will just kick the can, so.
Yeah.
We don't have, for the sake of the responsibilities in areas, does trash fall under the zoning?
Probably.
Mhm.
Okay. If you want to give an initial look into viable alternatives.
Yeah.
We can set up meetings have them come into the board trustee meetings down the road. Pitch us, just like other companies have done for services that we require. And we can put out a formal RFP at that time.
Mhm.
But we kind of have to get our arms around what our requirements are and what is what's being used around us and where can we gain efficiency. So,
And although we can't do it sooner, but we probably want to have it in place before the new contract.
And that's not till September, right?
yeah,
Well,
But I wanted to.
we have to look at the new contract if we're going to also continue with the current software.
Oh,
That's something that we're exploring other options.
Yeah, I think so, right?
yeah, that would be part of the
So
overall
Yeah.
solution. We'd have to look at another provider.
okay.
Yeah, because
there's okay, yeah.
and I can go grab that contract for because I know that the Rumpke one is up in September. I'm not sure right off the top of my head when the software contract is up. I know it's fairly early. It's within the first quarter of this year, so
That's not Rumpke software, correct?
no.
We're not paying them to do the management. They do management for other entities,
Right.
but the cost was prohibitive I believe at the time that we were looking at whether we should have our own solution that's non-integrated or pay them the overhead to have that as part of the services they provide.
Which if you factor in, if they process all of it, it may be cheaper to have them do it.
Yeah.
If you factor in all of Karen's time, the postage,
Well, that's
the permits for bulk mailing and the software
so
to do it.
that would probably be the first conversation, is talking with them and finding out what they offer and what rates and,
With Rumpke.
yeah.
Okay.
And figure out the,
Because I know they also offer the option, people can pay their bills electronically.
they do, and they have e-billing. So, but not if you're Perry Township, because we do our own administrative
Right.
area, so it's segmented off. Although they'll let you enter your information on their website and it won't kick out in there. Okay, so all things being considered, the cost right now isn't going to increase.
Correct.
So I'll make a motion to set the refuge service cost at $55 per quarter per resident through September 2023, when our contract with Rumpke ends.
Second that.
That's tabled. And this one, the next one about the blanket certificates, that's basically how I have to pay bills. You guys get to, see the certificates. Usually most of them come through the beginning of the year if adjustments have to be made. If you guys want to modify the number, we can modify the number. That's just kind of what I've gotten from other townships on how they do it. It basically what this would do is it would allow me to issue the certificate up to a certain amount
Right.
and then bring it to the trustees to be able to get the bills paid. If I go over that amount, I have to come to the trustees first, get approval to issue that BC.
500,000 you believe is adequate?
That's what,
Additional.
that's basically what most of the other ones have their set at, because, if you have a big purchase that comes through,
Right.
that could take out a big chunk.
Does anyone have any questions about this one? Discussion topics? All right, then I'll make a motion to set a blanket certificate policy to issue certificates up to $500,000 and to expire by December 31st, 2023.
Second.
Table.
The next one was regarding eligible employee pay each month for insurance benefits. Do you have it says as follows, but then there was
Yeah, I forgot to pull that one. I will have that for you at the next.
at the reorg? Okay,
Or, the reorganization one, because I'm still trying to fine tune those because some of the employees have adjusted
right.
what they want. We had one employee that's now going to put his children on the policy as well. So that's going to adjust what the premium
Right.
portion is.
And just so that the residents understand whether or not an employee takes the benefits, the township has to retain the funds for that position. Because if that position gets filled by someone else who takes the benefits, we're responsible for making sure that those benefits are paid out for health insurance. So we will have more information on that at the reorganization meeting. Any issues with rehiring all the township employees for 23?
Nope.
And I'll make a motion to rehire all township employees for 2023.
Second that.
And table.
All right. Any issues with the? Wow, part-time goes up to $1,500. That's much higher than I thought it was.
That's what we are allowed to have by law without having to change classifications.
Okay. But budgetary wise, how many employees get close to that?
Most of it's going to be on the police side, and it's maybe one or two, because a lot of the part-time police officers maybe do 8 hours a week.
Right.
Exactly.
So,
That's what I thought. I wanted to ask and see if there was anyone that was pushing that ceiling.
yeah.
Is there any questions on this one? Discussion topics? All right, I make a motion setting employees classified as part-time can work up to a maximum of 1,500 hours per year.
Second it.
And table.
Okay, the fiscal officer and trustee annual salaries, which haven't been published yet. Do we want to hold off on this one?
This was just saying that we
We'll follow whatever.
set them to exceed.
Any questions or comments on this topic? Okay, then I will make a motion setting the fiscal officer and trustee annual salaries not to exceed the maximum amount set forth in ORC 505.24 and ORC 507.09.
Second.
And table?
Table. Resolution to authorize fiscal officer to adjust departmental funds as needed through the year. Any discussion points?
Nope.
All right, then I make a motion to authorize the fiscal officer to adjust departmental funds as needed during the year 2023.
Second.
And we will table that roll. Current cemetery fees, rules and regulations for the township cemeteries. We addressed the fees this last year. So is there any discussion topics on those current fees?
I would like to table that until I get a chance to talk to Caleb and then,
Okay,
if that's okay with everybody, and then I'll
That's
bring
fine.
back at the next meeting. Okay.
and so that one we'll do in the
There
real.
was some blanks.
Yes.
With foundation costs that we didn't know about. Back when we
Okay.
adjusted.
Back at the next, okay.
All right, is there any discussion points on the approving of the fee schedule?
Okay, so we don't currently have what you would necessarily call a fee schedule. A lot of the fees kind of go across the board. You know, like, we have a return check fee for $50 and it's set at $50 for zoning, it's set at $50 for trash, that type of thing. We also we don't necessarily, I was talking with Mrs. Kaler to try to see if she could locate it. And as far as like public records requests, she said she believed that we charge like 3 cents if it's a paper copy. We charge 3 cents per page. If it's an electronic media, it's been $5. At that point, they've just been doing the CDs and that kind of stuff.
Copy is a paper copy, 20 cents on our current fee with a minimum fee of $1.
Okay, is that what it is? That's for the zoning one. So see, we're not across the board, right? So we really need to kind of find
That one up before the org meeting.
Yes. So if you guys have any recommendations on what you would like to see there,
Okay.
that's something we need to look at. And I kind of have had another note down here, because another thing too is what I would like to do, and I would take on this responsibility, is I've gone out to a couple of other townships. We don't necessarily have a visible public records request policy. A lot of the other townships have that policy. They have that policy available on their websites. Basically, it stipulates and says that, kind of gives more of a generalized time frame on how to submit requests,
Right.
what options are available, electronic media, by email, what the costs are for that.
Right.
And then they also even have an actual form that the residents can complete. And it has where it shows who it received by, what employee is handling the request, and then that it's been reviewed by the department head prior to releasing,
Okay,
to ensure that everything is met and all the steps are completed for the public records request.
It's fine and Amy, but some of this you don't have to fill out.
Right,
Okay.
right, but it's just something there,
Yeah.
yes, kind of gives more structure to doing the public records request.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they could request to just come pick it up anonymously or sent to an email.
Yes.
They don't have to put their names
Yep.
down.
Right.
Yeah.
so do we want to look into developing a similar form or modifying this?
I mean, like I said, I'm more than happy to work on creating it and then bringing it back to the trustees for review and approval.
I think we should have a.
Yes.
Because it does kind of take, we've received them on Post-its,
Mhm.
stuck to the door. We've received them.
And that makes it really hard for records retention purposes, because small things like that can be misplaced.
So if you'd look into that, getting an updated one.
That wouldn't be, this wouldn't be mandatory though, because a records request can be verbal.
Right.
So they can just
Well,
ask for it.
But at that point in time, then what would happen was if they're going to do a verbal request, whoever they're doing that verbal request for would fill this out.
This would be for our information.
Correct. And this would help
Right.
with our record.
We have to manage it on our side.
So if someone calls you, say, I call you and you can just fill this out while we're.
So if you called me, I would be filling out the requested information and then I would put myself as the
We
receipt.
make sure that Charity and Karen
Yes,
both have those
exactly,
available.
correct.
I
And we-
think for record retention, I think that's a great idea.
And we can also share this with the police department. We come up with a Perry Township form, make sure all the department has.
Have their own that they're already
They
using.
may, but that's because they actually
Correct.
have their Alexa-full,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So-
Run that through you possibly once we get it done, just for clarification.
Yeah, and then I like at the bottom that they actually put the resolution that the use was approved
Yes.
on the form because that,
And then it also puts on there, it lists out potential costs. So they know going into it, this is
I'm
what,
not surprised when they make a
right,
broad request and it has a
right.
cost. So, yep. Okay, so we'll table that one as well. The fee sched, that was the fee schedule.
Yes.
Okay. The next topic was the governmentally assigned holidays, the federally recognized holidays.
Yeah.
I'm wordsmithing here on the fly.
So what I provided you guys with, this first one that's 2 pages that's stapled together,
Right,
that is our current policy. I also attached 2 local government entities, what they, or neighboring ones, what they acknowledge in theirs. You'll also see too that in our policy manual, based on the holidays that have been set forth prior, we don't have some of the stipulations of like the requirement to work your scheduled shift before or after a holiday to be eligible for those pays.
so some of the municipalities have more of a religious slant to the days that they allow to be off for. And I mean, it's obvious. Yeah, Good Friday, Christmas Eve.
Well, and that's why, you know, with you guys, because like we had the one holiday came up this year that we observed, but it wasn't in our policy, which could cause some issues. So that's why we need to determine what the
Right,
trustees.
no, and my point there was that, you know, on occasion, the federal government does approve new federal holidays, which is, their process is, it takes a while. So if our policy actually stated that we observe all federally observed holidays, regardless of as those change or shift, we would obviously update those in the notes. But if a new federal holiday was added, we would be covered by federally observed holiday. So we would have the room to not have an issue necessarily up front, but we would still have to update the policy to what the currently observed federal holidays are, right? So we wouldn't have the rush like we had when they approved Juneteenth.
Right.
When that happened, we had a gap, we had to kind of fill that. So
Now, the other thing with that too, though, is there are a lot of holidays that are federal, by stating that we're going to observe all the federal holidays. There are a lot of federal holidays, or not a lot, a few federal holidays that a lot of other municipalities or that don't necessarily close for, which is your Lincoln's birthday, your Washington's birthday.
So the federal government consolidated those just into. Oh, it was president. I think it's President's Day. It's not necessarily, it's on Washington's birthday, but it's President's Day.
Right.
February 20th.
Right.
Columbus Day.
So I mean, it's up to the trustees. Are those actual holidays that we want to observe and actually be closed on
Right.
to the public?
I personally think with this schedule here, did you come up, you type this?
No, these are neighboring
Okay.
municipalities.
The only thing that I would add on this holiday for 2023 is, what is it? I can't say, June 3rd,
Juneteenth.
June.
Well, and then the other one too, I think if I'm looking at the same one you're looking at is, do we want to observe Good Friday?
Isn't that right before
That's the Friday before Easter.
Easter?
So currently, just for this year, there's only one holiday that falls on a Friday. And we were talking about having the office closed on Fridays.
Right.
Right. They're all on Mondays except for the 4th of July and Thanksgiving. Which
But you-
is being at, well, and I want to make sure, because we were talking about constricting that schedule anyhow.
Right.
Well, but you also got to factor in, this will also affect Caleb
Yep.
and
Yeah. So. President's Day.
I mean, feel free to mark out, strike whatever dates that you guys feel. And then I can recompile everything into the new policy.
So both of these have 11 days. We just pulled out some of the federal ones and put in one for Christmas Eve, one for New Year's Eve.
Right.
They're both half days, right?
Right.
And then Good Friday. But the rest of them are I would consider them the primary federal holidays,
Yeah.
right? The ones that aren't being, well, they do have President's Day here. They don't have Juneteenth.
Yeah, that one's actually only 10 days if you count the 2 halves.
It is. They don't have Columbus Day, which, okay. So those are the 2 basically.
Or Veterans Day.
I'll say the one does not have,
Don't have-
one has Veterans Day and one doesn't have Veterans.
I will propose that veterans.
Keep Veterans Day.
Yes,
Right.
I think that's important, just seeing the turnout in the township for
I
the
think so,
Veterans Day
too.
activities. I
Yeah.
think that's a big one. So does anyone want to see the Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve?
Well, if you look at it too, technically, I mean, Christmas Day next year is on a Monday. So Christmas Eve would be on the Sunday.
Well, but
Following.
well, that's actually one of the ones, yeah, so you couldn't do that because if it would be on a Sunday, it would be observed on a Monday, but if it's on Monday, then. So they're doing it on Friday.
Right, which I don't know that.
I don't think that we have to do the Christmas Eve one.
For the New Year's Eve one, which would be the Friday.
Why can we not just keep what we already have at Juneteenth? Oh, we were not Columbus Day, right? And then adding Juneteenth, is that what trustee Mears?
Say it again.
Remove Columbus Day
Looking at?
and add Juneteenth. To what we have currently in the policy.
Oh, yeah, I don't have Columbus Day. Yeah, no,
We could do that.
yeah.
And then we were gonna put anything in there about working the day before and after a holiday to receive that benefit.
You cannot, if you call up, my belief
You
is
must work your regularly scheduled
unless you
have pre-approved time.
vacation time. That's the way I feel about it. If you take vacation day, the day before, that's up to you. But if you call in sick, and then the next day's a holiday, you don't get paid for it.
Right.
I believe that.
Trustee Hartshorn, you gotta.
No, I agree. I mean, the only thing is I was trying to figure out how that fits with the resolution, because the resolution is only about the holidays, not necessarily about the policy surrounding the holidays. So
Well, but that could be one of those things that we approve the holidays now, and then
We do.
in the trustees meeting, we can
So-
adopt, amend whatever the policy. for
right,
the
we
Holidays.
can entertain that motion then, at
Okay.
the organizational meeting. But it sounds like we'll scratch Columbus Day at Juneteenth,
Okay.
And then when I meet with lexical, we can add that in.
right? Awesome. I love your focus. Okay, are there any other items for discussion?
Do you want to talk about the fire and EMS contract?
Yes,
Okay. So
Do you want to discuss that in executive session?
I don't,
Can we not do that for this meeting?
No,
I don't think we can go into executive session when it comes to contracts unless we are requiring legal to be present
Okay.
to discuss
Okay.
those.
Yeah.
All right.
no, I just,
Because these are, it's basically because it's levied, it has to be public knowledge.
Right. I thought I heard you say that before. I misunderstood.
and I just wanted to give updates of my meeting yesterday.
Okay.
And we don't have to vote on this. It would be nice if we could, but if we don't, I informed them yesterday. So I know that there was some questions regarding some of the language.
I've got Jason, a copy of. Just to go. with-
Yeah,
I think they're both identical, correct?
They-
just have
they
different
are.
Headers.
yeah.
So I met with city manager Glenda Madden, Sonia Keaton and Chief Fletcher. So on this, the fire chief, being the fire prevention officer, and I have talked to our legal counsel. And it was brought to my attention that she had questions and she did contact Miss Keaton, because Clay Township took that language completely out, but then they turned right around and put a resolution in that Chief Fletcher would be their fire prevention officer.
Was that just an oversight on the initial contract?
No, I don't know. They just didn't put it in. So, but they stated you had to have a fire prevention person. So after talking to them up at this meeting, I did question and they said anybody could make it. And they said, even one of us trustees, but we would have to go through training and blah, blah, blah. They are, Fletcher and Kaiser are both inspectors, which means if like the house fire on Providence Road, they can go in and say this happened. I find this,
Right.
so, and they have no issues, 1 year at B Fletcher, 1 year at B Kaiser, if we, have no, So I thought that was, I really don't have an issue with that. I don't know how you guys feel with it.
We can't appoint both of them. It has to be one.
It only has to be one.
It can only be one.
It has to be one. There can be a deputy. Like if Chief Kaiser is gone, then Fletcher can fill in.
I'm just wondering how, we're split 50-50.
No.
Fire's a new Lebanon.
He can,
Yes,
they
to
cover the.
This is a township role. This isn't a fire department role.
Yes, yes.
So it has to be for the entire fire district for the
Yes.
township. Okay.
I was just thinking if you had
No.
both and they did theirs, they did theirs.
No. Has to be one, and then you can appoint a deputy, and that's, and I think that's what they did up at Clay Township. That
They
they,
took it out, but they had a resolution. and the
yeah, and
organization.
I have a copy of that resolution. And they did accept Fletcher as the thing, and then they appointed the fire chief of Phillipsburg, Verona, and the chief of Verona as the fire prevention officers who shall for the deputy, as deputies. So I don't know why they took the language out and then did a resolution, so so
I
that
think
was.
it's because the actual that really shouldn't be part of the contract. That's actually just part of the organizational
Yeah.
from the township level, not a contract level.
Right, and it's always been in there, and it is a good thing, if you stop and think about it, if there is a fire, you don't want me coming out and inspecting it and
Right.
anything else. So, number 11, I think, is that right?
Yeah.
Section 11.
So, what was it? The city shall also provide a copy, and we wanted the word may. Or,
No, they said upon request, and I said it need to be a mandatory deliverable.
right,
They didn't like that. And I said that we're paying a lot of money for those services and we should have those regularly
right.
delivered reports.
And at this meeting, they said that, you can interpret the word shall several different times. But they said they have no problem at any time if we ask for those reports.
The problem is that they're putting the burden on us to ask for it when we've already put a levy on the ballot. It's been approved. And this was another thing. They basically said it's just like a FOIA request,
Yeah.
right? And I countered back, no, it's not, because this actually had to pass a levy. to get approval to happen. We're paying for their services. It's not a FOIA request. That we're talking about standard deliverables in a contract between two entities. That is not a FOIA request. And the fact that they kind of kept seeing it that way, I didn't want to. If we forget to ask for it.
Yeah.
One way or another, and they don't provide it, we're wrong. The expectation in any contract between two entities is right up front, what is required to be delivered, what can be delivered on request. And I felt that this was one of the things that needed to be delivered
Be required.
monthly or quarterly,
Right.
right?
What is their, I mean, I believe Chief Fletcher, and I'm sure Chief Kaiser gives a report monthly at.
Well, and see, this is a monthly town, no, this is the fire chief or his shall each provide a brief written summary of the fire department operations related to the township for review at monthly township meetings. The city should also provide a copy of the fire department budget to the trustees at the start of each calendar year upon request. So this isn't what you're thinking about with the report.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, I got you.
And I don't have an issue if that's an issue, I can contact them the first of the month and say, I want this. So,
I agree with Jason. I believe that they should send us a report monthly.
Well, we get a,
To ask.
We do get a report monthly, but this
You
is
get the report.
an additional area. I was just saying this should be delivered monthly as well.
Yeah.
Because,
what we get is the type of
Any
event
runs.
Yes,
and the address,
correct.
but trustee Hartshorn was wanting more of kind of like the response time, correct?
and
Yeah.
he said that
response
is-
time,
that
time
is
on
not
site,
logged.
and other jurisdictions supporting.
Yeah,
and
he said that
resources.
maybe the other, but he said, the time limit and stuff, that's not logged. I mean, that's like the fire on Providence. And I questioned him on that. And there was like 4 or 5 departments there.
Right.
But the time that it took for them to put out the fire is not logged. So, and I did ask that question because I told him, I'm gonna be honest with you, when people ask me, I'm gonna ask you. And I said, why was there 4 or 5 other departments there? And he
Right,
said, because it was 9 degrees and it was blowing and
right.
so, but I mean, they were very forthcoming. I didn't have an issue with them. They didn't get.
Right. So these aren't metrics that they currently capture, so that's
No.
why they wouldn't be. comfortable.
Exactly, and that's what he said.
And that's fine. They've also not told us what metrics they capture.
No,
So we're sitting here whistling in the dark, trying to figure out what to request as key performance metrics. And they're saying, well, we don't capture that. Fair enough.
right,
But I would like a list of what metrics they are capturing, because we should have a choice of what's included in the reports that we receive.
yes,
Because those reports then we turn over to the residents so that
Right.
they can see what their money's going to. I think that's fair. We worked really hard to establish a culture of
And
transparency.
I got to that.
So we could ask them to add in that to include all available metrics.
Right.
And
They collect, yeah.
and he did say that they do create a report that, they create a report that isn't there, that they can provide this report. He
right,
said, what you're asking, the, time limits.
right,
He said, it's not there, but
right.
I can do that if that's what you want. And I said, okay, I would.
Right. I'm
and
not
I-
looking to add to what they're
Right,
doing, but if there's
right.
metrics that they're currently collecting, I'd like to know what those are so we
Right.
can see what's applicable.
And
to
I told
township.
them at this time, I'm not in any way accepting anything. I'm going
Right.
to bring this back.
Right.
So
And then 12,
12 was what?
Is that the hold harmless?
No.
Or,
That's the required to meet.
Oh, discuss,
Yeah.
and again, they said, this is basically, you can request it. They didn't see a reason why they should have to come once a quarter to talk about their financial operation issues. The meeting will be on a date to be agreed upon parties. They said that's not an issue. You call us, we'll be here, or we can send a report or a doesn't.
I think annually, then we need to establish that we'll put out what meetings that they're required for in January
Maybe like
through the year.
every
Like,
6 months or at the 6 months mark, okay, so.
if it's twice a year would be better than what we have now.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the levy just passed.
Right.
What have you done that we can pass or tell our residents what you did? I can take.
Well, and the
that.
residents can actually
Sure.
ask a question. I know that's not an optimal situation for them, but we were able to put a 4 mil levy on that got approved. I think that has some inherent responsibility with it to appear before the trustees and the township and the residents and just kind of
Right.
be open about
Right.
things. So if we want to tell them, we make a note that annually we'll require them to be here for the June
Yeah.
and the December Board of Trustees meetings.
And just look.
Right.
And I did, and my last request was, and I did ask them, that I know that they sent reports, and I know before Brookville used to break it down with incorporated and unincorporated. I think now it's only
They've merged everything together.
merged everything together, and I can ask
Right.
if they can separate that, because he said they do that like every 3 months or something. I know Chief Kaiser, everything's broken down.
Well,
I can ask Chief Fletcher if he can break that down for us. And I told them the reason I was asking that is because I will be putting these stats on with our police
Right,
department.
right.
So our residents can see, well, there was 10 runs in Perry Township, or there was 5 runs, or however many. And
So,
the thing is, I mean, if we had 0 calls to Perry Township, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yes.
it's like, man, I hope my house only burns down once. I have insurance. Like, this is insurance. Just because we don't use it doesn't mean it shouldn't be there.
no, I agree, but but when you pass a levy,
Yep.
you know, and we
I think it's looking down the road at when they ask us for more money. Now we've got data to say,
yes,
oh, now, here's what we've paid for.
Right.
right.
but
And-
I have to be honest, I was very impressed with all of them, very forthcoming. Questions answered, no issues. We will get you the, any request. It's not a public request. You call me, I'll get it to you.
Right.
No issues.
The
So,
only thing that I wanted to make sure was understood is that up to this point, this has not been a collaborative effort between us and the municipality
okay,
providing the services. In the last couple of years, I've gotten the feeling, I went into it open arms
right,
to have those conversations and work with them. But in the last year, they wouldn't appear here, they wouldn't meet with us, they wouldn't do it in front of the residents. It creates a perception,
yes.
right? Then both municipalities send us the exact same contract.
What,
That creates a perception, right?
well, and
Because-
I'm gonna, because that same contract you have right there, they sent Clay.
Right.
Exact same thing.
Right,
So-
but what I'm saying is that if Brookville sent the same contract to 2 entities, fair. Brookville and New Lebanon, sending the same contract to the same entity. I felt uneasy about that. That seemed like they were talking, they were
Oh,
planning,
yes.
right? And here again, this is not doesn't seem like a collaborative exercise. It seems like they're telling us what the language is gonna
What they're gonna
be.
do.
And that's where I bristle, because overall, we should be having conversations about the contract language.
Yes,
We should be talking with our legal representation regarding the contract language. And it should be a give and take,
right.
not, I send questions to one. The other one replies, I have to send the same response to that one. And I'm literally in emails trying to hold 2 different conversations where they're talking on the back channels, possibly. It seemed that way.
And I do know that in the past, there has been some issues and they have been verbally attacked.
I know that they have, and
But I've tried to assure them that things
But
have changed and
things have changed. And
So-
we have
and-
worked hard to
Yes.
structure the meetings in
Yes.
such a way
yes,
that order prevails, the business
Right.
of the township is the primary focus.
right,
I would just please convey to them
yes,
that we're entrusting them with a large amount of money.
right.
And with that comes responsibilities, and I think we deserve to see more of them, whether it's in person or in what they're sending us,
Yes.
because right now. I don't feel like we're collaboratively working on a contract. I feel like we're throwing rocks over a wall. And playing a game of medieval battleship. It doesn't feel like we're working towards a contract. It
Yes.
feels like they're telling us, this is how it's gonna be,
Just give us your.
and we're just supposed to take it, right?
And
So,
we do have to remember, I know you say the money, but the voters did vote for this.
they
But-
did,
But as we want to make it quite clear why we put it on the ballot
Yes.
and what is.
most
going
definitely.
on.
It's
So
just a
I-
level of collaboration. They are providing the services, we are providing the funding for the services through
Right.
the residents vote.
So what did you buy? What did you bought this month?
Well, and I don't want to go like down an itemized list.
Well, no,
I'm on it, but at the same time, I feel like we are out in front leaning forward,
sure,
giving, and
Yes.
we're not seeing a whole lot of collaboration back.
yeah. I
How it comes out once the contract is in place is a little
Right.
different as to what they deliver,
Yeah.
but right now, there should be a bit more interaction from them with the township and not just with one of the trustee responsible for working
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah.
I think that process works with,
Yeah.
you working with them, but they also should be here to deal with,
all of
no, I don't want to say deal with, talk with all the trustees at once.
Well, yeah,
Right.
because as much as they answered questions, I asked questions, so on
Right.
and so forth. But you may have come up with something different than what I had or a
Well,
different
and
question.
it puts you as a messenger in between,
Yes, and
kind of
that's,
ping
and
pong.
that's the very first thing I told them yesterday is, I can't guarantee you this is gonna be signed.
Right,
But I'm telling you, I'm not deciding anything. I will take this back to my other trustees and do this, so.
so it sounds like we've got a good
Yes.
beat on the information and nail the
Yes.
contracts down.
Yes,
Once
So it-
the
it-
language gets finalized, send it to a new
Yeah.
to get
I
get a
mean,
read on that.
basically, it's done. I
Right,
mean, they're not gonna change the shall and may, which, I mean, unless you guys wanna change it or meet with them
That's-
again. But, and,
it's disappointing, but at this point,
Yeah.
is it worth the additional conversations? I don't know.
yeah,
Well, I think that you did want them to provide us with what information they did have available.
Right, what metrics they are collecting
yeah,
on
and
what they're doing.
and I will ask.
Estimate to that.
Because when they let us know what metrics they're collecting, those should be identified specifically in there, what we're expecting from them.
Right,
When it comes to reports or other
Right.
deliverables that they.
and
do.
I did state that to him because I
Okay.
told him, just like Mr. or Chief Kaiser, his is broke down.
Right,
Brookville's isn't. I don't care that you had 2,700 runs in the month of January. I want to know how many you had in Perry Township, so my residents know. So if I have to, I will contact him and say, I need that broke down instead of every 3 months or 6 months.
right. Okay, is
So
there
we
anything
want
else?
to table that until I.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
The village shall carry liability, bodily injury and property damage insurance, shall.
Yeah.
But are we saying this, they don't have to? If we're going to talk about shall in the next sentence, that the village or fire chief or designee shall each month provide a written. Does that mean he doesn't have to? Is that what? No, I think that language should be changed. I'm not a lawyer. But
Well, I'm not either, and that's why some of these, when I talk to a new, there are sometimes different shall and
shall
may.
means something in a contract.
Shall and
The
may
difference?
could possibly,
The
Could possibly.
catch is that ultimately this contract is between us and the municipalities, not with fire departments, right?
Mhm.
So there it's basically saying that it's not our responsibility to pay for their liability. That's taken care of by their municipality, right?
Right.
So because that's how they provide the service. But the next part about the shall provide, but then upon request. So. I mean, for that, that seems like a long way around the conversation.
Yeah.
If they just say shall provide on request, then so be it, but there's a lot of words between the shall and the on request that make it seem awkward
Yeah.
as you're reading the language of it. So there is some of that should be cleaned up, I think, and it just has to be more succinct in the shalls and the mays and whatnot, because right now it's misleading in areas, and that's where my notes on 11, 12, and 13 were, is that the way that they were worded, it didn't make sense.
right,
Right, so, but you have those notes and you can
Yeah.
take that back.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on the fire and EMS contracts? Okay,
so do you want me to send this to a new again, or?
I think a news
Sherry?
reviewed it. Yeah, I would get back with them and
Okay,
just let
and
them
bring it
know of the few areas that we need to see
Gotcha,
some movement in, and then whenever they send something back, then we'll send that to them.
okay, gotcha.
The proposal from Charles E. Harris for end of year financial Hinkle notes.
Yes, so last year, what Hinkle notes are, is they're basically financial notes that are required to be uploaded to the UAN system. before we close out the end of the year. Without them, the township is unauditable.
Right.
So last year, because there's a lot of different requirements that need to be captured within those notes, we had contracted with Charles E. Harris accounting firm to prepare those notes. They provided it to us in a format that could just be uploaded into the UAN.
Right.
They submitted proposals to us again this year if we want them to prepare those notes to make sure basically all the i's are dotted, all the t's are crossed. We've met all the criteria that's required to keep us auditable.
Have those changed from last year's?
They have, it's gone up a little bit. And what they've done is they've given us two proposals. We have a proposal based on just doing the end of the year stuff for 2022. And that is not to exceed $575. I think last year it was like $475 or $500. But of course, each year, some of the requirements and stuff and things that have to be encompassed in there. And it varies because if you have larger townships are going to require more in their notes
Oh, yeah.
than what smaller townships are. Ours varies year to year because if we have to do loans, like where we got the new cruisers, where we did the financing for that, that requires an additional step and additional notations in there. So that's why they say it can't be a fixed price, but it won't exceed this price.
Right.
If we choose to just go with the 1 year, if we choose to go with them again, and we choose to go with just the 1 year, it's $575 for 2022. If we decide we want to do like a 3-year agreement with them, what they have proposed is, of course, this year would not exceed the $575. Next year, no matter what changes or whatever, it would not exceed $625. And then the 3rd year, it would not exceed $675. So it's a little bit of an increase each year that it wouldn't exceed based on changes and stuff. But those were the two proposals they had if we want to go with them again.
Right. Well, I don't have an issue with them providing the Hinkle notes again this year. I don't know if I'm settled into a 3-year agreement at this point in time.
I agree.
I think at this point in time, a 1 year.
Yeah.
And that's what we did last year because they
Right.
gave us the 2-year proposal, but it was
Right.
one of those things where, and my current term ends at the end of next year. So should somebody else.
So your term ends at isn't it April is when the fiscal officer,
Well,
actually the
right.
role transfers.
The role transfer, correct.
you're
Correct.
Not reelected.
So but next year would be my last year if I chose not to run again or was not reelected. Next year would be my last
Right,
auditable year where the Hinkle notes would be required. So then it would be on whoever my successor would be. They may be comfortable with doing their own
right.
or may be more comfortable with somebody else doing them.
I'm good with the 1 year.
Okay. You want to make a motion on this and then just table it?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. At this time, make a motion to accept the proposal from Charles E. Harris for the end of year financial Hinkle notes as provided.
Second that.
All right. Is there any other topics that we need to discuss today? Okay, at this time, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Trustee Mears,
yes.
trustee Hartshorn,
Yes.
trustee Music.
Yes.